Okay, FNaF Security Breach 2 needs to happen because the original is the best game in the series. Oh, it feels so good to say that. This is clearly a controversial opinion as Security Breach has amounted so much hate over the years. While true, the game does have a lot of fast boop, there are also many positives that aren't discussed enough. These have not only changed Five Nights at Freddy's as a franchise, but the indie horror space as a whole. So today, I'll compare Security Breach with the latest entry, seeing the factors that made this game so influential and how they're missing in the newer games. This to understand what the sequel needs to look like to be successful. To start, the freaking marketing. I cannot stress enough how much the promotion of these games has fallen. The most obvious example being in the most recent game, Secret of the Mimic. Also, I'm not forgetting this, I'm putting Help Wanted 2 in a hold mostly, as it's a little crazier. At its time, everyone knew from countless teasers that Security Breach was gonna be the first frame-run FNaF game with insane graphics, and what seemed like a dense story, being hyped up alongside freaking God of War in PlayStation Directs. In contrast, Secret of the Mimic, or Sodom's marketing, dude, the freaking parody song made most of the promotion. I mean, you don't even have to take my word for it.
On TikTok, there's a bunch of Secret of the Mimic clips going viral, and all of the comments are saying, what? This is a FNaF game? And the game's been out for a year. And if that's not an indication to show that FNaF needs to step up marketing, I don't know what else can prove that, guys. Like,
that was Dawko, one of the closest YouTubers to the franchise. I think something that tripped them over here, even above making more teasers, is the game's recognizability by their own characters. Like, for example, tell me a random FNaF game, and you can easily point towards an animatronic or more that acted as a face of the unique game they're in, like Glamrock Freddy, who is not only recognizable as being another Freddy Fazbear, but managed to even stand out with his creative design. Expectedly, he was marketed basically as the main guy in the game, and he was throughout 90% of it. When people think of Security Breach or a Freddy, it's really easy to connect them both and get a feel as to what the game is. Something I think is very important they consider in the sequel, as contrastingly, Sodom was only centered around one guy, the Mimic. But to be fair, they treated him really smartly. Bro goes inside people's costumes and mimics them. Every encounter with him, you have like a unique guy chasing you. The problem is, though, that I think they overdid it. Sure, there is the argument that it's just one guy controlling all of them, but it still acts as if there's 100 different animatronics chasing you, and they just kind of blend in with one another. But not only is that not apparently obvious to an outsider, but maybe even people playing it somehow. So when it came time to promote the game, their own Glamrock Freddy was Jackie, being used literally everywhere, and it makes sense. She is the most eye-catching, that sounded weird, and FNaF-esque character. I still think it would have worked really well. Even if the Mimic takes control of various characters, Jackie could have been its like favorite, being most prominent throughout the game. However, bro was literally just 5 minutes in the best part of the game and died, explaining why there's like 3 seconds of her in Sodom's only real trailer before release. And hold on, someone's at my door. Oh, sorry Freddy, I'm recording something right now.
Sorry to interrupt you, Faz Double, but you really need to tell people to subscribe.
Nah, I don't do that.
But super good. Your last video got like 100 views. I mean, I'm truly sorry.
No, you're right. They will subscribe. Come here. Anyways, they also seem to have realized this lack of promotion around 2 days before the game came out, releasing recordings of the game in panic, which just spoiled some of the best cinematics.
These teasers are just spoilers. Yeah, what?
This makes me a little worried since it's been a year without any FNaF announcements, so I'm really hoping they don't do this again with the next game and do have more central characters they can point to expect throughout the game. Like, actually, the delays of the original served to its favor, constantly leading Scott or Steelwool to release something promoting the game to make up for the extra wait time. So when Security Breach did come out, we already had multiple trailers, posters, Funko figures, merch, and a side game, frigging Security Breach Furry's Rage. That was such a great game. Anyways, in the original, our first impressions are of a magnificent cutscene that showcases the main characters as well as a retro aesthetic that will be present throughout the game, which is very nostalgic for a lot of people. Everything being so beautiful and fun is genuinely like a mental snapshot from younger me when I first opened the game.
Guys, which one is the most attractive?
Following this, we're presented with our fast friend, something that is usually disliked. Everyone like Freddy has their own personalities that influence their behavior. Like Roxy has self-worth issues and Monty is a FNaF gamer. Many think that outright personalities don't belong in modern FNaF. And honestly, I kinda disagree with that. And I think it's the reason why not many were caught off guard by them talking like this. Basically, the franchise has been ubiquitous online, making people want to make their own fan games and videos about the series, attributing personalities to the game's characters characters to fit into their specific genres based off like their slightest actions. In my opinion, these copies have transformed how original FNaF media is interpreted nowadays, allowing the animatronics to not just be lifeless husks, but to have their own identity. Doing this was big. Attributing to the scary guys their own personality and purpose was huge for making them memorable to the audience and attracting them. The only bad thing is that things like these come out too. Secret of the Mimic, on the other hand, kinda does give the characters a personality. Dolly acts like a cartoon nurse, Puppet Foxy and Roxy are funny, and our character Arnold is just like a normal freaked out person. However, they just don't talk as much, and they're not something you would really hold as figures or faces of FNaF. Now, I'm not saying that Security Breach 2 needs to make the characters have big personalities for the game to be successful. There's many cases where the opposite has worked, but I think they shouldn't be afraid to lean on it again in order to be scary. Same goes with the graphics. Amidst the stunning visuals that made it enjoyable to investigate the place, and it's something that Seoul is really good at doing. Not everything has to be necessarily dark or somber. I mean, look at Finding Frankie, a mascot horror game which is notably inspired by Security Breach. Their characters have their own unique personality, and they are places that are bright and really pretty. However, the game still manages to have its own dark and horrifying moments. Anyways, riding off of this example, something really important to consider is the gameplay. Honestly, I've replayed Security Breach countless of times, and even though Sodom does have some entertaining parts, I can't be the only one who got a little bored from these, right? Like, I really like the lore and investigating for secrets, but I couldn't tell you what's behind most of these secret doors since it wasn't fun to me to memorize codes from like whiteboards. The most obscure lore puzzles before were even a lot more interesting, but besides these, the recurrent puzzles in Sodom are really just simple and repetitive. The big top section I think really demonstrates this, which also shows a big issue here. It's really evident that the game was built to be a VR experience, and after giving it a go in my headset, while it does get a little tiring, it is more fun and it makes a lot more sense why everything works the way it does. Like the freaking claustrophobic set designs they said they were aiming for, which sacrificed a lot of big cool spaces, doesn't really translate as well in PC until you are in VR and you do get the scale of it all, which is definitely a plus. It's quite an issue with the identity of the game that also made people look like they were cranking it. Security Breach wasn't perfect with their game design, but that honestly added to the fun. It's part of what made it so interesting to talk about. Even though people say the game was fun because of the glitches, they obviously don't need to make it buggy on purpose in order to be entertaining. Do cool mechanics, invent new things like you did with the fast watch and the fast gun. Finding Frankie really exemplifies the power of having fun game mechanics instead of, you know, just walking and clicking stuff. Finally, the last thing I want to cover is to do with the community. I think there were so many things to talk about in Security Breach thanks to the open space and so many creative decisions that were taken. This allowed so many discussions about this game and gave rise to a lot of FNaF YouTubers that we know today, like Theft King, Right Toast,
Betty bought a bit of butter,
ID's Fantasy, and so many others got their start from everyone searching around for conversations of Security Breach. And honestly, that's what I miss the most. That interaction with the fan base and constant speculation. There's so much to talk about even today. However, the lore in Sodom, for example, can be easily followed. Like, it's purposely very open for new audiences, which I mean, it's fine. Like, there are more cryptic and discussable topics in other places, so it's like a win-win. The reason I mention this is because I think it points towards the fact that Sealwool doesn't seem to be taking as many risks or creative ambitions, at least as much as they did before. Everything in Sodom seems generic, making so many people compare it to Poppy Playtime, and it's fair to make that connection.
The Jack in the Box was extremely Poppy's Playtime.
It feels really reminiscent from like your typical mascot horror game, but with a big budget. I understand that it got a lot of hate from Security Breach's creative decisions, but I think FNaF was built on risks, on taking innovative decisions that makes their games fresh and outstanding, not just focusing on their competition. And wait, I just realized that basically all of these points I covered are fulfilled by Help Wanted 2. It's so much fun and pretty and did so many smart decisions. At this point, I think that maybe deserves its own part 2 for this video. Right now, let's hope that a Security Breach 2 does come true and FNaF gets not only back to the peak it was with the original, but even better, fun, and discussed without the glitches and immense hate. But just imagine they announced Sister Location 2 with like Chica's restaurant or something. Nah, they couldn't. Out of topic, did you know that FNaF was stolen across different countries? Click here to find out more. But hey, that was just my opinion. My Mr. Doggo opinion. Please don't hate me. Shout out to Ulbi.